Let us now sing the praises of famous men, our ancestors in their generations. The Lord appointed to them great glory, the majesty, or His majesty from the beginning. There were those who ruled in their kingdoms and made a name for themselves by their valor. Those who gave counsel because they were intelligent. Those who spoke in prophetic oracles. Those who led the people by their counsels and by their knowledge of the people's lore. They were wise in their words of instruction. Those who composed musical tunes or put verses in writings. Rich men endowed with resources, living peacefully in their homes. All these were honored in their generations and were the pride of their times. Some of them have left behind a name, so that others declare their praise. But of others there is no memory. They have perished as though they had never existed. They have become as though they had never been born. They have their children after them. They and their children after them. But these also were godly men whose righteous deeds have not been forgotten. Their wealth will remain with their descendants, and their inheritance with their children's children. Their descendants stand by the covenants, and their children also for their sake. Their offspring will continue forever, and their glory will never be blotted out. Their bodies are buried in peace, but their names live on generation after generation. The assembly declares their wisdom, and the congregation proclaims their praise. As the fat is set apart from the offering as well-being, so David was set apart from the Israelites. He played with lions as though they were young goats, and with bears as though they were lambs of the flock. In his youth, did he not kill a giant and take away the people's disgrace when he whirled a stone in the sling and struck down the boasting Goliath? For he called on the Lord the Most High, and he gave strength to his right arm to strike down a mighty warrior and exalt the power of his people. So they glorified him for the tens of thousands he conquered, and praised him for the blessings bestowed by the Lord. When the glorious diadem was given to him, for he wiped out his enemies on every side and annihilated his adversaries, the Philistines. He crushed their power to our own day. In all that he did, he gave thanks to the Holy One, the Most High, proclaiming glory. He sang praises with all his heart, and he loved his Maker. He placed singers before the altar to make sweet melody with their voices. He gave beauty to the festivals and arranged their times throughout the year, while they praised the Lord's holy name. And the sanctuary resounded from early morning. The Lord took away his sins and exalted his power forever. He gave him a covenant of kingship and a glorious throne in Israel. After him, a wise son rose up, who because of him lived in security. Solomon reigned in an age of peace, because Adonai, or the Most High, made all his borders tranquil, so that he might build a house in his name and provide a sanctuary to stand forever. How wise you were when you were young! You overflowed like the Nile with understanding. Your influence spread throughout the earth, and you filled it with proverbs having deep meaning. Your fame reached to far-off islands, and you were loved for your peaceful reign. Your songs, proverbs, and parables, and the answers you gave astounded the nations. In the name of the Lord, you who is called the God of Israel, you gathered gold like tin and amassed silver like lead, but you brought in women to lie at your side, and through your body you were brought into subjection. You stained your honor and defiled your family line, so that you brought wrath upon your children, and they were grieved at your folly, because his sovereignty was divided, and a rebel kingdom arose out of Ephraim. But the Lord will never give up his mercy or cause any of his works to perish. He will never blot out the descendants of his chosen one, or destroy the family line of him who loved him. So he gave a remnant to Jacob, and to David a root from his own family. Solomon rested with his ancestors, left behind him one of his sons. Broad in folly and lacking in sense, Rehoboam, his policy drove the people to revolt. Then Jehoram, son of Nebat, led Israel into sin and started Ephraim on its sinful ways. Their sins increased more and more until they were exiled from their land, for they sought out every kind of wickedness until vengeance came upon them. Then Elijah arose, a prophet like fire, and his word burned like a torch. He brought a famine upon them, and by his zeal he made them few in number. By the word of the Lord he shut up the heavens, and also 3 times brought down fire. How glorious you were, Elijah, in your wondrous deeds, whose glory is equal to yours. You raised a corpse from the dead and from Hades by the word of the Most High. You sent kings down to destruction and famous men from their sick beds. You heard a rebuke at Sinai and judgments of vengeance at Horeb. You anointed kings to inflict retribution and prophets to succeed you. You were taken up by a whirlwind of fire and a chariot with horses of fire. At the appointed time it is written, you are destined to calm the wrath of the Lord before it breaks out in fury, to turn the hearts of parents to the children, and to restore the tribes of Jacob. Happy are those who saw you and were adorned with your love, for we all so shall surely live.